Memorial Day in America, a day that the U.S. honors all the soldiers that died in wars. I can't say in America because all the wars always been on somebody else's soil. The only war fought in America was the Civil War fought here. America against each other, Americans against each other. And, I was working with a fellow when America went into Afghanistan. I guess under the premise that they had weapons of mass destruction. But this fella, he had been in the military. He was rah, rah, rah. Yeah, we're going to go in there. And he thought they were going to wipe him out in about 3 days. And I told him exactly what was going to happen. And I said the Russians had just come out of Afghanistan. And I believe the Russian army is a whole lot more ruthless than the U.S. Army. And they came out of there with nothing. And I said, America, they're going to go in there and they're going to bomb, what my mother used to say, try to bomb countries into submission. They're going to go in there and bomb, bomb, bomb. But what do they have to bomb there? Rocks. You're going to bomb rocks and make smaller rocks. And after 20 years, you come out of Afghanistan with absolutely nothing, which I knew would be the case. So now you're honoring up all these soldiers who died for what actually in these last few wars that we had. Just take a listen to this guy, and he talks about what the U.S. has been doing around the world, and they leading up to something else. They want supremacy and domination over the whole world. It's too late for that. It's done. They want to dominate China. I figured they never had the heart to go after China in a war. But they edging their way up to something with China. And Ukraine, they all up in the middle of that. And like the fellas say, it's just Ukrainians dying. And they want to do the same thing in Taiwan now. Edge up something against China using Taiwan. You'll have another Ukraine there. And the United States might end up toe-to-toe with China in a case like that. And for what? For what? I say when they have to go get out of those jets and go toe-to-toe with those mountain folks in Afghanistan, it's not going to end up like they think. And keep messing with China. I mean, China is going to be a dominating country in the world, and that's it. You might as well forget it. You're not going to dominate over them. All the sanctions and everything else you're trying to do, that's just going to hurt people here. And you're not going to stop China's dominance in the world market. And Africa is going to be on the way up there too. And there's going to be a period where you're not going to want to mess with Africa either. So just sit down and take care of the United States.
Kennedy had the sense to pull back, but I'm not sure that our politicians today have that sense. Honest to God, I have to tell you, there are so many stupid and irresponsible American politicians. You can't even believe it. They don't care about war. They talk about war as normal. They want to send so many Ukrainians to their deaths because they even say the Ukraine war is wonderful. No Americans are dying, as if 500,000 Ukrainians aren't enough dead, and as if the risk of nuclear war isn't great enough. So I'm very worried in the United States system. So much power resides in the president. We've had a string of very mediocre to poor to dangerous presidents over the last 20 years. None of them has risen to the occasion. None. This is really very worrisome because our political system is broken. It's corrupted. It's not bringing the best people to the forefront by any means. Our two lead candidates right now, I regard Biden's presidency as a failure because he doesn't understand diplomacy. He's also 81 and he's too old for this job. And Trump is a very unstable person. These are our two lead candidates. This is something terrible for the world. And in the meantime, so many European leaders, I think, including in the Czech Republic, say, oh, yes, we follow the United States. That's our greatest ally. We have to do whatever the United States does. And don't people realize, don't do that. Be careful. Cooperate globally, because we need to bring in Chinese colleagues, Russian colleagues, African colleagues, Latin American colleagues. We hear so much falsity. I almost never hear the truth from the U.S. government anymore. I know the situation with my own eyes all over the world, because that's my work. My work is to be abroad. My work is to be engaged in discussions with governments all over the world. That's what it means to work with the United Nations and on international objectives. And so I hear directly many things, and I can see with my own eyes and hear with my own ears that the U.S. is lying so much of the time. Now, the mainstream media generally repeats these lies. The New York Times, the Washington Post, the main cable networks. This is a big problem, because the public hears a false view of things. And in Europe, it's been the same. Ever since the Ukraine war broke out, if you say anything that says, well, there's a background to it, there's a history to it, there should have been peace, this has to do with NATO, immediately you're branded, you're a Putin apologist, you're a fool, you get on Ukraine's hate list, many things, all to shut down debate. Same thing is happening with respect to Israel right now. Israel is committing terrible war crimes. I believe genocide, but if you say so, oh no, you're violating every standard, every norm. So truth is really at a premium right now, and that's why what you're doing and alternative outlets are so important, because and it's probably the big benefit of the digital age in this regard. There are many downsides, but at least we have the chance to hear a wider range. You have to search for it. It's not going to come in the mainstream media. And interestingly, we had Tucker Carlson in the United States interview President Putin, and he was attacked by all the mainstream. How dare you do that? And yet hundreds of millions of people watch that, apparently. And that is amazing, because people want to hear themselves. They don't want to hear it through these government propaganda outlets, basically. So this is what we really need to do. It's hard, and the dangers are very high right now, because we're really in the midst of a very, very serious crisis, which, as I've explained, I believe the United States has done the most to instigate, actually. And we need diplomacy just to stay alive. And if we can stay alive and stop the worst, then we can work on getting the truth out too.